WNYC Studios.
Note to Self is supported by Enterprise Florida, the official economic development organization for the state of Florida, offering immense opportunities for your business to grow, innovate, and explore. Curious about what Florida could do for your business? Learn more at www.floridathefutureishere.com. Note to Self is supported by Squarespace, launching their new campaign, Make Your Next Move. Make your next move and set new goals this year. Lock down your next move idea with a unique domain and create a website to launch today. Use offer code NOTE for 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace domain or website. Make your next move with Squarespace. More at squarespace.com. Hello, Note to Self listener. It is your host, Manoush. And the reason you're hearing this is because I'm on vacation, which means that what you're about to hear is an encore episode of Note to Self. A nice way of saying it's a repeat. But hey, we only re-release our absolute favorites. So please enjoy this episode again, or maybe enjoy it for the very first time if you're new to the show. And while you're here, please subscribe to Note to Self, because we'll be back with something brand new really soon. I'm Manoush Zomorodi, and this is WNYC's Note to Self.
So I'm constantly feel like I'm playing catch-up all day.
The show where you and I find balance in the digital age.
And I think that's worth having a discussion about.
And figure out how to manage modern life. Hello, everybody. It's Question of Note, our bi-weekly segment where listeners ask a question and we go and find the answer.
So
I'm just wondering.
What's the answer?
Okay. Because I could use some help.
Oh.
This week's question comes from Judd Walkstein in Atlanta, Georgia.
So I was wondering if it's right of me to just blindly post pic after pic of my 3-year-old's entire life all over social media. Should I start deleting every pic until he's old enough to give consent? Or is this just what it's like to grow up in a digital world?
All right, now, before you people without kids go running off thinking this doesn't apply to you, trust me, this episode is about how we document and share our lives now when we don't really have any grasp on what the consequences may be. And I kind of love this idea of Judd just like blindly posting pictures of his kid, his poor kid. Or maybe his lucky kid. I don't know. He's trying to figure out how much should he show off his beautiful boy. And I have two guests in the studio with me. Hillary Frank. She is host of the Longest Shortest Time podcast.
Hi, Manoush.
I'm a huge fan of Hillary's podcast. I wish it had been around when I first became a mother because it would have made me feel a lot better about some of the difficulties I had. And then Jen Poyant, who is Note to Self's executive producer.
Hi, Manoush. And hi, Hillary. Hi, Jen.
Okay, so each of us have sort of a different philosophy and policy when it comes to posting pictures of our kids. And listeners, I want you to see, who do you relate to the most? Who do you agree with? And Hillary, you also are going to be sort of acting as an ambassador or reporter from the front lines of parenting, which, you know, you have a huge community that talks to you a lot about this stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, I don't post pictures of my kids anywhere. I have used their pictures in a couple places, you know, for the show, but generally we don't show their faces. And I think for me, it's in part because my husband's also a journalist. I feel a little weird putting them out there. Jen, you have a very different policy. What's your deal with? You have a little boy.
Right. I have a 3.5-year-old boy, and I do post pictures of him every day, both on Instagram, and occasionally I'll use the function on Instagram where I can then just link it right to my Facebook page. And for me, it really is about sharing my life. But I should say, I'm a single mom, and that's a choice that I've made rather consciously. I've decided for me, it's worth it for my family and friends to see that he and I are developing a lovely relationship together. And I want to share that.
I mean, I should say, like, the pictures of you and your son are really beautiful. There's this maternal deliciousness going on in a lot of those pictures. Hillary, where do you fall on all this?
So I'm a lot like you, Manoush. I've chosen to have sort of a public persona. I'm a very private person, which might sound surprising given that, like, I host a podcast, but I'm also...
And I'd also like to point out, you host a podcast where a couple weeks ago you talked about how you, like, didn't wash your maternity bra for, like, months.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like you are not out there in your podcast.
Yeah, I washed it. I just didn't have an
Oh, you only
alternate.
had one.
Yeah.
That's right. So you'd have to be like...
But yes, I talked about my bra. So people think that I'm very confessional on the show, and there are certain things that I do talk about, but I'm also, like, trained to be an editor, and I'm really good at editing myself. And my daughter is 5, and she did not choose this for herself. And so because my show is about parenthood, I do wind up talking about my experience with her, and I try not to say things that, like, I think could potentially really embarrass her, which gets harder and harder as she gets older.
Jen, do you worry about that? That, like, your son's going to be like, I didn't ask you to post these pictures.
I try really hard to post photographs that I think he would be okay with him. I realize there is some editing involved in that.
Yeah.
I don't post like embarrassing pictures of him or naked pictures. I would definitely not. And there's a safety issue involved in that. But I totally understand that he's not choosing to be put out there like that. In a way, I feel like it is my responsibility to make sure if I post pictures of him, that they're a reflection of love more than anything else.
It's funny that you say that. I found this poll that was done by the University of Michigan, which found, for whatever reason, 3/4 of parents think that another parent has shared too much information about their child online. So no matter what we do, many of us have very strong opinions about what everybody else is doing, which I thought was really interesting. And I just want to bring you one other statistic that I found really fascinating. Now, this was done in 2010, so we have to keep that in mind. But this study found that 92% of children in the U.S. have an online presence by the time they are 2, which I thought was really interesting. And that's 5 years ago, so I can only assume that number has gone up. So, you and I, Hillary, I think are sort of the outliers.
So I brought some tape in.
Oh, great.
From some listeners. Let's listen to Marcia from Austin.
I try to not post too many photos because I also have quite a few friends dealing with infertility issues. It is hard for them to see so many photos of sweet babies, knowing that they're having difficulties. It's like salt in your wound.
I love that you can hear her baby in the background.
I know, proving that it's not always so rosy.
Yeah.
That, to me, is what would incentivize me to, like, rethink my posting. The fact that she has this very human story of her friends struggling with infertility. I have a friend who sadly miscarried twins at different points in her pregnancy with both of them. And I definitely had that inclination at one point, soon after she lost the babies. And I never talked to her about it verbally. I never, like, sat down and said, does this bother you? Because we're not that close. But the interesting thing is she likes my Instagram photos. And so I don't know if that actually is a source of some sort of comfort that she can enjoy other people's moments of motherhood, or maybe it inspires her. But the inclination,
wistful.
Yeah, it might be. But the inclination for me on whether or not to post, I gotta say, for, like, the tech stuff and, like, the safety aside, like, yes, I am a little weirded out by the creepers, but for me, it's the human stuff. Like, I feel like I'll be able to talk to Josh and explain to him throughout his childhood that I've made this choice. It's a conscious choice, and that I love him deeply and I'm proud of him and my relationship with him.
So about the creepers, not to fearmonger, but
go for it.
Somebody answered our question on Instagram and said no, that she doesn't post pictures of her kid online. She said, a few years ago, my wallet was returned to me at the public library, and the only thing missing were photos of my 8-year-old daughter.
Oh, that is creepy.
See, that's interesting, though. That's literally someone stealing a wallet and stealing that image totally outside of the tech realm. There is a part of me that, like, wants to just say, like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm posting, like, a picture of my kid wearing funny sunglasses on the way to school. I don't want to not do that because there may be some dangerous person lurking out in the world that stumbles upon that image. What are we going to do? Ignore the fact that there are children, wonderful, beautiful children, like living out their lives in the real world and act like it's not real? It's like, I think there's this weird division between online, the virtual world, and the real world. And for me, they're both the same. They're both a reflection of my real life.
I mean, this comes back to like parenting. I think like my parents, I think they think of it as kind of like show-offy when you are posting pictures. It's like, I think like this idea of like, oh my God, look at my beautiful offspring, you know, like that. I think they've always been kind of weird about showing us off in some way. And so that sort of translated to me in that, like, I don't know, I feel maybe it's like I don't know, I'm a first generation American, so it's really not, it seems very American to be showing off your brood.
I think that's a really interesting question. I mean, I think that gets to a larger question about whether or not posting your own image or posting images of your family is an inherently narcissistic behavior.
You know, you're bringing this up because when we first started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, you looked at me and you were like, do you think it's narcissistic? And I was like, oh, yes, I do. I think it's narcissistic. But you were like, I don't know, when you explained to me your rationale, I got it. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into some of the risks of posting stuff online and when you might be okay with them. Note to Self is supported by Mozilla, makers of Firefox and champions of an internet for people, not for profit. Mozilla builds the technology and fights for policies that respect people's identity and data across the internet. Trust and control over online privacy preserves everyone's freedom to explore, transact, create, and connect together. It's what a healthy internet is all about. To learn how you can stay safe and secure online, visit mozilla.org/online privacy. Note to Self is supported by Squarespace, the simplest way to create a website. This new year, make your next move with Squarespace. Whether that's starting a business or launching a passion project, no matter what your goals are, Squarespace's award-winning templates can help you present your ideas to the world beautifully. Use offer code NOTE for 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace domain or website. Squarespace.com. Make your next move. Make your next website.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jessica Williams.
And I'm Phoebe Robinson.
And we are back this spring with an all-new season of our hit podcast, Two Dope Queens from WNYC Studios.
It's comedy. It's conversation with your fave celebs. It's me and Jess telling trife stories about my Bono obsession.
Ugh, gross, dude. Why are you even bringing that up right now? Anyway, this season you'll hear from John Hamm, Carrie Brownstein, Tig Notaro, Gabrielle Union, and more.
Ooh, my pits are sweating just thinking about it.
Cool down, girl. Come on over to Two Dope Queens wherever you get your podcasts.
And Bono, call me.
We're back. I'm Manoush Zomorodi. You're listening to Note to Self. Jen Poyant, who is the executive producer of this show, is going to explain why she actually does feel comfortable documenting her kid's life through posting photos online.
Even last night, we made a sticker chart, as parents do. And it was cute to me. He decided that he's going to use red sparkly stars. So I posted that on Instagram. And for me, it was about like the creative process of doing that with him. But it's not like, hey, my kid got straight A's. It's like, oh, look at this drawing we made. It's kind of fun. And it's part of our daily lives that I get to share with family members. And they know, oh, that's like a good lesson that Jen's working on right now, like today. So you can choose to, yes, truly just simply show off your life with your kid or show off your kid. Or you can choose to kind of aesthetically curate the things that you find really interesting about your child or your life, or the things that you think other people would relate to. Especially for me, I do. I live in the Rockaways in New York, so the beach. I'm a little bit isolated from family and friends. I've come from a big French Catholic family in Massachusetts, so my dad was one of 11. So I have tons of cousins who all have kids. And this is a way for them to see my life with him in a way that's just natural and, you know, we don't have to wait a year.
All right, Hillary,
I see posting drawings as different from posting faces, and I don't know if Manoush, if you see a difference there, but I post drawings all the time.
Maybe I should start doing that.
And I like how it shows like the psychology of the child without like, I don't know, putting their face on there. And Jen, I just wondered, hearing you talk about your family and being a single mom and wanting people to see that like you're okay. Does it feel like you're posting those pictures like from a defensive stance?
So after Judd asked this question, we were just chatting about it at our desks. I was pretty honest about the fact that, yeah, it does. Like, and it's not, I don't know if it's right. Like, I don't know if I need to be defensive. I don't think I do, but I do. I went through a couple of really hard years, and maybe defensive isn't quite the right word. I think there is a sense of, I'm a journalist, right? I like to journal. I like to express myself. And I don't necessarily feel like I should hide the part of my life that I am so deeply proud of and deeply connected to. So I don't know if it's defensiveness or if it's just me trying to be as honest with people about what's happened in my life, both the really bad stuff, like a marriage falling apart, and the choice of becoming a single mom. To me, it feels almost honest and maybe not defensive, but very upfront with people about what's happening with me and not feeling guilty about that in any way.
And you're building a narrative with those pictures, right? Because like it's almost like me saying like I'm worried like if something were to happen, what I would have to do to like explain to people. And you've done that.
Yeah. And it's a subtle communication. You know, I mean, look, I don't think that most people are actually following my Instagram feed and, you know, making the connections that
they are now.
2 years ago, there are pictures of my husband and I.
Yeah.
Or my husband and my son, and now they're just the two of us. And look, this the end of a marriage is not unusual. It happens. But for me, it is a way of just being honest about my life.
So we also heard from a lot of people who do post pictures online of their kids, like you, Jen, and probably more. But we heard from Howard from Wynwood, Pennsylvania. Let's listen to him.
I am a father of 3.5-year-old twin boys. And yes, we do post pictures of our kids online. I do have some qualms about it, but ultimately I think it's inevitable. And candidly, somewhat selfishly, I've become a little bit of an amateur photographer and really figured out how to use my SLR and take some really nice pictures of them. And it's kind of become a little bit of an outlet for my art, which is odd to say because I really was not an artistic guy before having kids.
That's so nice in a way. I mean, Howard, like, gets a chance to, like, scratch an itch that you didn't know he had. Hillary, are you tempted? Like, does it change you? Does it make you start to think, like, maybe I'm missing out? Maybe I'm not documenting my...
No, it doesn't. I continue to feel like I enjoy posting the drawings and the little, like, for Crazy Hair Day, I did the back of her head, which was definitely more interesting than the front anyway.
I mean, I have to admit that I'm having a little niggle.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think it's appealing to the part of me, like you said, the journalist documenting the aesthetic part of it. But honestly, I get enough of an outlet, like on this podcast, where I bring all my personal goodies. So I think I'm still going to resist.
I think that it may just come down to the fact that you come from a family that would never do this.
Yes.
And I did call my mom last night and asked her what she thought, and she was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have cared. I probably would have posted like you are.
Does it bother you at all that Instagram now pretty much owns those photos? Like,
a little, yeah.
I don't know. Like, what if, I don't know, something happens to Instagram? All of that's going to be gone.
Oh, that happened to my friend recently, actually. She's a great amateur photographer, and she had posted thousands of pictures on her Instagram feed, and she had like a political issue at work. And a bunch of people at this workplace started reporting her pictures as inappropriate, and they were not inappropriate.
Just to mess with her?
Yeah, and then Instagram didn't investigate it. They just took down all of her entire feed.
Oh, my God.
And it was gone. So I back up my photos.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
But also, like, what bothers me, like, just, you know, from a tech journalist point of view, facial recognition technology is getting it's getting good, and it's just going to get better and better and better. So this idea that Facebook or any company will have tracked your child from birth, know how their face has changed and morphed, watched where they've gone in their life geographically, what they've been doing, what products they've bought, that freaks me out. And I know that I'm probably on the more paranoid end, but I don't like that idea. And I don't know why I don't like it. I think it's just, they're my kids. I want them to make their own choices. I don't want them to, if that's what they decide is right for them, let them decide that. I don't want to be responsible for the fact that, a social media network knows absolutely everything about them.
Fair enough, but it is going to happen no matter what. I could imagine saying this to him at 14 when he's pissed off at me for making this decision.
And we have him on the show.
Yeah. And Hillary's show.
Yeah.
I could imagine saying to him, I understand you're upset with me. If I made the wrong choice, I am sorry, but I did it out of love.
He'll be pissed at you about something.
I know.
So it might as well be that, right?
So we've been talking about our kids' future desires of their online persona. We had someone who called in specifically about that. So let's listen to Megan from Norway.
I do not post pictures of my baby online. It's kind of strange, but my idea of why I don't want to post is because I imagine when I post, I will inject my idea of her personality on her when she's such a small baby and maybe as a toddler. And over time, she may change, or she may want to change. And I don't want all of these people that she'll run into later in life, people that are connected to me, to assume that they know her because I injected this personality onto her at such a young age.
I love that.
I do too.
This one really hit home for me because I think this is something universal for parents and not just about posting pictures. So I was really quiet as a kid, and I guess I still am an introvert. But becoming a radio reporter was a conscious choice of mine to sort of try to challenge myself on being a quiet person. And I know that my parents always presented me to their friends as, oh, she's shy. And they didn't mean anything by it. And it took moving away from home and, starting my own life and meeting new people to be able to do that. And this is probably something that everyone goes through in some aspect of their personality. But just knowing that Megan was being so thoughtful and intentional about this was really interesting.
So I just want to bring this back to Judd. Judd, this is a long-winded answer to your which sounded like a simple question, but it's actually really not. It is like a deep exploration of self and how you see the world. And my God, Hillary, what would you tell Judd to think about as he, what should he do?
Think about your future relationship with your child. And before you hit send on those pictures, imagine kind of worst case scenario, them looking you in the eye and being like, why did you post this? Or maybe you're thinking ahead like Jen does to, if it comes to that, then I have an apology prepared and we can move on.
I would like to say I do think it's also equally possible that he's touched and happy that I did this, you know? I think you have to look at the photos to realize oh, this is actually what are those?
Rorschach test?
No, what are those? Oh my God, we are so in the digital age that I cannot remember what the old books are where you actually.
Oh, photo album, you weirdo! Oh my God,
that cannot go in it can't.
It has to go in.
No, it can't.
It must. It's a photo album.
So, I can imagine, from my perspective, him looking and saying, "This is a beautiful photo album of my childhood with my mother. She documented it," and he's touched because it's so loving.
Definitely. And also you are being very intentional, I think, about which ones you put up. And I think most people are, but I also think we're going to be hearing about conversations between parents and children of why did you post that picture of me in that crazy outfit or with my bare butt showing or, that's going to happen.
That's true. I don't know. If you look at the whole Throwback Thursday thing, though, people love posting pictures of themselves
when they're grown-ups, not when they're 13.
True.
All right, I'm putting an end to this. Obviously, Judd, It's a very, very, very personal decision. But what I think we're saying is check your motivation, check what you think your kid might think, make the choice, and prepare for whatever might come with it. But be good about the choice. Don't have that niggling fear that it sounds like so many of us have. Think about it. Decide what your reasons are and then stick with it. I'm going to stick with mine after, I believe in all sides, though. I refuse to judge on this one. So let us know, listeners, where you come down on this issue. Note to Self's Facebook page or on Twitter @Note to Self. There is also an awesome Longest Shortest Time Facebook group that you should check out for more smart parenting discussion. And Hillary, you also have an app.
That's
actually.
right. Yeah, we have a Longest Shortest Time app, which you can find in the iTunes store. And that's where our calls came from. That's why the audio quality was so good.
That's so cool. Hillary Frank, host of Longest Shortest Time podcast. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Jen, I'll see you back at our desk in a minute.
5 minutes, Manoush. Get
Okay.
down.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to this encore episode of Note to Self. You can talk to us anytime by sending us an email or a voice memo at notetoself@wnyc.org. Tell us what you'd like to hear us cover, or just reach out and tell us what's on your mind. We're on Twitter and Facebook @Note to Self. And please check out more episodes on iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts, or at notetoselfradio.org. For now, I'm Manoush Zomorodi, and I'm
trying to unplug.
Talk soon.